So mailbag time. Who would you pick up on the waivers, Jerick McKinnon or Devonta Freeman?
I'm picking up McKinnon. I want the guy who's in game shape, who understands the team concept, who's in a run-first offense. McKinnon's clearly ahead in my vote.
Cosign.
And I think that's a unanimous decision for all of us. Now, a trade question came in. Would you trade Todd Gurley and John Brown for Joe Mixon?
Man, before the season starts, is there any question about this? You just say yes and move on? Yeah, I got to think Joe Mixon snaps out of this a little bit. Atlanta's defense is so bad, and they're constantly playing catch up, so they're not able to really set the tone and give him the groundwork that he needs. John Brown's the one kind of hang up there. Like the way Buffalo's offense is kind of moving along right now, that's really where the hiccup is. And so I think I do it. I think if I'm looking for a running back that I know has a floor, it's going to be Joe Mixon. Todd Gurley's floor is floating at best due to game script. Eventually, Buffalo's going to start playing New England and some teams who understand their concepts a little bit better and will slow them down. I think Mixon's available to do the same thing that he did last year, right? He started out really slow. A lot of people sold on him, and then he picked back up. I think we'll see that as this year goes along too, as Burrow gets more comfortable in the pocket and consistently hit A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd. I do think it's going to alleviate some pressure on that box, and it's going to give Mixon some running room.
Yes, I think that Bengals offense is just hurting right now. I think there's a lot that they need to figure out. I think that young quarterback, it's going to be difficult. It's easier to key in on defenses can say, we're not going to let Joe Mixon beat us. We're going to see if this rookie can. And so far I think it's proven right that you shouldn't let Joe Mixon. The Bengals have played some kind of salty defenses to start. The Chargers, they were able to slow down Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. There wasn't really anything great on that one. And then, the Thursday night game on a short week, the Browns rush defense is really good. As I mentioned, earlier in the show. So, I think as time goes on, this Mixon, and I know I'm kind of for the trade. I think I would do the trade to get Mixon off of my roster. But Derek, when you ask the next question that came in the mailbag, I will have a different answer.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, Joe Mixon is kind of a buy low candidate right now, right? Like he's a guy that a lot of folks are kind of down and out on. When you look at it, he had a very poor showing in week 1, not a strong showing in Cleveland there, both of which he finished outside of running back 2 territory. But when you listen to a lot of the things that the coaching staff has to say about him, he's a guy that gets stronger as he gets rolling, right? So as the game starts rolling along, he's a guy that runs harder as the game progresses, and he's a guy that's going to run harder as the season progresses. So, and we saw that come true last year. I see very much the similar things starting to shake up and how that's going to roll out. Last week, Cleveland does have a good deal, but Joe Burrow threw the ball 60 times last week, right? And threw it 36 times in week 1. They cannot allow that offense to have a rookie quarterback drop back and rip the ball 40 plus times down the field and expect to win. So you look at what happened last year. The Bengals realize that they've got a bell cow back that can carry the team. They hand the ball off, they let him go, and they start winning games going down the stretch. I see something similar happen to that. So for me, Joe Mixon's a buy low candidate. So that does lead us into the very next question, and you did some good foreshadowing there, Alex, in which the question was posed, is it time to panic on Joe Mixon?
No. The short answer is no, because of everything that you just said, Derek, and the fact that these first 2 weeks I don't think are enough of an example of what the season will be in terms of the defenses that they're going to see. So I don't think it's time to panic on Joe Mixon. I think that obviously his best performances are in front of him.
I would say no as well. I think the Bengals are one of the NFL teams who is really being overly cautious, and rightfully so, with what we saw this past week about kind of, I'm going to say, babying their star players along. And it's not meant negatively. They're just being very cautious about this, guys. They knew that they weren't going to be overly competitive this season as Burrow developed, and they continue to get some pieces around him. It's clear that they need some offensive line help, but for Mixon by himself, no, it's not time to panic. You have to understand what Joe Mixon is. Joe Mixon was not going to finish in the top 5. Like, no one predicted that. So let's treat him as such. He is a guy who is in that second tier of running back who now is creeping up into that first tier of running back, quite honestly, based off of talent because of the injuries to Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. You've seen some of these guys go off. Dalvin Cook really hasn't popped yet either, and no one's panicking on Dalvin Cook yet. Aaron Jones had his big week last week. Jonathan Taylor's starting to emerge, but there's still plenty of guys who are drafted around that area who haven't had that big pop-out game yet. So be patient. I don't think you have anything to, force a deal. If something gets handed to you that's too good to be true, absolutely evaluate it, but don't feel like you just need to go out and sell Joe Mixon to get rid of him.
Like I said, he's a guy that's going to get stronger as the season progresses. And you didn't draft him, to your point, you didn't draft him to be a elite running back. You didn't draft him to be a tier 1 running back. You drafted him to be a back of tier 2, top of tier 3 type of deal, depending upon how you saw him and how you saw that Cincinnati offense. So he was a guy that you drafted in the second round, late first to the second round. So he's a guy that we're going to see end up finishing much better than where he currently is. And I would not surprise me that at the end of the season, we're looking at this thing and Joe Mixon is a running back 1, especially with some of the injuries that have happened, things like that. So I see him getting better. His schedule gets more favorable as you go through this and as you get through the stretch. And right now there's not a guy that I think I'd rather have in a week 16 championship on my starting roster for the running back position, which, looking at it, Joe Mixon plays Houston, who's one of the worst teams right now in the league against the run. So absolutely sign me up for that one. Buy low candidate. If I can get him, because people are panicking, I'm going to roster him on my teams.